The Tree Who Dreamed of the Sea, Chapter 7. The Ledge. During the next few days, enjoying a smooth, easy ride in the currents of his friend the river, Leafy had plenty of time to think. He was proud of himself, proud of how he'd come through 2 sets of rapids, proud of how he'd applied the technique which the river had taught him, proud of the strength of his trunk, which had allowed him to hit the largest rocks at full speed without breaking in two. Well, sure, he thought. I've lost some leaves and limbs, that's the price of being an adventurer. So what? I can take any rapids they can throw at me. Once again, Leafy felt the river begin to accelerate, and heard the distant roar of another set of rapids, growing louder and louder. Then, suddenly, he was in the rushing, boiling waters, crashing into one rock after the other. Ah, those mountains with their snow-capped peaks, and those thousands of beautiful flowers. Crash! Then, suddenly, Leafy felt himself flying. Whee! He cried, but the crash, when he landed, shook every cell in his body and knocked poor Leafy half senseless. My, my, Leafy muttered to himself, taking stock of his injuries. Then, suddenly, he got the shock of his life. He was no longer moving. After his flight, he had landed not back in the water, but on a kind of broad rock ledge just above the surface of the river. "What's happening, River?" shouted Leafy, alarmed. "What's going on?" "Oh, Leafy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. It's terrible," said the river. "You're beached." Terrible. Suddenly Leafy realized that he was almost completely out of the water. "Hey, River, come and get me," he said loudly. "Leafy, I can't," replied the river. "I can hardly reach your roots. There's no way I can get up on that ledge and float you loose." For the next few hours, Leafy lay silent, thinking over his situation. On his way downstream, he'd seen more than a few beached trees along the edge of the river, high out of the water, bleached white by the sun, bone dry, dead. The more Leafy thought about it, the more it seemed that his great adventure was over. He would never see the sea, could never keep his promise. On the second day that he lay there, he asked the river, "Can't you just wear away this ledge? You said that for a river, even solid rock is no obstacle." "Oh, sure, Leafy," said his friend. "I can and I will wear that ledge away. But rock isn't easy to carry away like earth. It will take me thousands of years." "Well, that's no solution," said Leafy. "I don't have thousands of years." On the third day, his friend the magpie came and sat on one of his remaining branches. Leafy was so glad to see her that he could have wept for happiness, but she obviously hadn't recognized him. The magpie sat for quite a while, resting and preening herself, and as she did, she practiced a little song that she was composing. "Leafy, tall and brave, Leafy, dreaming of the sea, Leafy, where have you gone? She sang, mixing in various trills and scales. And Leafy almost shouted out to her, "I'm right here, you're sitting on me." But he didn't. He was so ashamed of his situation, of being beached, that he didn't dare speak up. He knew that if he did, she'd just fly right back to the forest and tell all the trees there, and then how they'd laugh at him. So in silence, Leafy listened to her singing, feeling both proud of the song and ashamed of his state, until finally she spread her wings and flew off. "It's my fault, Leafy," said the river. "I forgot about that ledge for a moment." "No, my friend, you did your best by me," replied Leafy. "I was the one who wanted to travel. No one talked me into it. I was the one who chose the unknown, who chose adventure. And now I'm learning. Adventures can end up badly at times, and adventurers sometimes end up dead." End of chapter 7.